My name is Lucas. I'm 27, and up until last week, I thought I was a good son. Maybe even too good. I was the one who always stepped up when my parents needed something. Rent was tight, I covered it. Car broke down, I paid for the repairs. My younger siblings needed help with tuition. Guess who pitched in? I never complained because, well, they were my family. And isn't that what you're supposed to do for family? But this past week, I learned something about my parents that I can't unlearn. And now, I don't think I can ever look at them the same way again. It started a little over a year ago. My parents were struggling, bills piling up, mortgage behind, utilities threatening shut-off. My dad had a decent job, but my mom hadn't worked in years, and they were terrible at managing money. Every couple of months, there was some emergency, a broken water heater, unexpected medical bill, something. And every time, they turned to me. At first, I didn't mind. I make good money, I'm in tech, and while I'm not swimming in millions, I do well enough. And I grew up watching my parents stress over money constantly, so if I could help make their lives easier, why wouldn't I? Then, the helping became an expectation. It wasn't, Lucas, we're in a tough spot. Is there any way you could help this month? It became, Lucas, our rent is due next week. Just send the money to mom's account like last time. No discussion. No asking. Just a demand, like I was their personal ATM. At first, I brushed it off. They were my parents, after all. I figured if this was what I had to do to keep them from losing their house, so be it. But over time, it started to eat at me. The entitlement. The lack of gratitude. The way my younger siblings, both in their early 20s, both still living at home, never seemed to contribute a single cent. My brother was always out with friends, always wearing new clothes, while my sister had this elaborate skincare routine that easily cost hundreds. And yet, I was the one keeping the roof over everyone's head. I started setting boundaries, but they didn't take it well. One time, I told my dad I could only cover half the rent that month, and he got angry. Not disappointed, not stressed, angry. He ranted about how I owed them for raising me, how parents sacrifice everything for their kids, and now that I had money, it was my turn to give back. That argument stuck with me, but like a fool, I still sent the full amount. Then last week happened. I was talking to my sister over text, just casual conversation, when she mentioned something about a resort. I asked her what she meant, and she went suspiciously quiet. A minute later, she sent, "Wait, you don't know?" "No what?" She didn't respond after that, but something felt off. I called my mom. She didn't pick up. Called my dad. Straight to voicemail. Called my brother. Nothing. Finally, I texted my sister again. "What are you talking about? Where is everyone?" That's when she sent me the photo. It was my parents, my brother, my sister, all lounging by a pool. A luxury resort. The kind of place you see in travel ads with pristine beaches and personal cabanas. Drinks in hand, sunglasses on, all smiles. I stared at my screen for a long time. I scrolled back through my messages with my mom. Just 3 days ago, she told me they were struggling with bills again. That things were tight. That they might not make rent this month. And yet, there they were. On vacation. Without me. I felt. I don't even know what the word is. Betrayed? Stupid? Furious? I waited a few hours before calling my mom again. This time, she picked up. She sounded annoyed, like I was inconveniencing her. "Lucas, I can't talk right now. We're at dinner," she said, laughter in the background. I kept my voice steady. "Where are you?" Silence. Then, "What do you mean?" "I mean, where are you?" "Because from what I can tell, you're not at home struggling to pay bills. You're at a resort that I assume you paid for with the money I sent you." A long pause. Then she sighed, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "Lucas, we needed this trip. We've been so stressed. You don't understand what it's like, holding this family together." I almost laughed. "Holding it together? You mean me holding it together? I pay your rent. I pay your bills. And you didn't think I'd find out?" Her tone immediately changed. "Lucas, don't be dramatic. It was just a little getaway." "A little getaway?" "Mom, it's an all-inclusive resort. You told me you couldn't afford rent this month." Then she said the words that changed everything. "You would have ruined the mood." I sat there, gripping my phone so tightly my fingers ached. "Excuse me," I said quietly. She huffed. "You've been so negative lately, always making a fuss about money. We didn't want to deal with that energy. We needed this to relax." I was speechless. Then she said, as if to soften the blow, "Look, I'll make it up to you, okay? Maybe next year we'll take you along. But this trip, this one was just for us." For a long moment, I didn't say anything. Then I hung up, and I started planning. Because if they thought they could take advantage of me forever, they were very mistaken. I didn't respond to any of my mom's follow-up texts that night. Not the half-hearted, "Don't be mad," or the guilt-trippy, "After everything we've done for you." I just let them sit there, unread, while I stared at my ceiling, running through every single time I bailed them out, every overdraft fee I covered, every last-minute emergency I saved them from. Every time I told myself, it's just money. They're family. But it wasn't just money. It was respect. And they had none for me. The next morning, I woke up to over a dozen missed calls from my parents. My dad had finally joined in. His texts were angrier, short, blaming me for overreacting and telling me to grow up. My mom's were softer, trying to smooth things over. Neither of them apologized. I took my time getting out of bed, made coffee, and sat at my kitchen table, scrolling through their messages like they were from complete strangers. And in that moment, something shifted in me. I was done. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to demand an explanation. They knew what they did, and they weren't sorry. The only thing left to do was make sure they never took advantage of me again. Step 1 was easy. I cut them off. Not dramatically. No big confrontation. No screaming. I simply logged into my banking app, went to the automatic transfer I had set up to send them money every month, and canceled it. Then I blocked them. Not forever. Just long enough for them to feel it. I knew how this would go. The rent was due in a week. They'd spent my money on their little luxury vacation, which meant they had nothing left to cover their actual expenses. And sure enough, 3 days later, my mom's number, blocked but still visible in my call logs, was blowing up. By the end of the week, she was leaving frantic voicemails. "Lucas, please, we need to talk. We might lose the house. You can't do this to your family. Please, honey, just call me back. We didn't mean to hurt you." Then my dad, "You're being childish. You're punishing us over nothing. Pick up the phone, Lucas." I ignored every single one. Then came my siblings. My sister texted first, "Mom and Dad are freaking out. Just talk to them." Then my brother, "Dude, you're taking this way too far." Too far? I almost laughed. They weren't worried about me. They weren't apologizing for what they did. They were just panicking because they needed money. And I had no intention of helping them this time. A few more days passed, and then I got an email. It was from my mom. The subject line just said, "We need to talk." I debated deleting it, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened it, and what I read made me angry. The email started off almost normal. A fake attempt at reconciliation. "Lucas, we love you. We're sorry you feel this way. Let's talk and fix this as a family." But then, the tone shifted. "We didn't want to tell you this, but we're in a really bad situation. The rent is due, and we don't have enough to cover it. We never thought you'd just abandon us like this. You know we rely on you. Rely on me. Not appreciate me. Not thank you for all you've done. No, just straight up we expect you to provide for us." The next part made my stomach twist in rage. "Your brother and sister are worried about you. They're saying you've changed. That you're acting selfish. Honestly, we're starting to agree. Ever since you moved out, you've been distant. Cold. This isn't who you are, Lucas. We raised you better than this." I slammed my laptop shut. That was it. The final nail in the coffin. They weren't apologizing. They weren't even acknowledging what they'd done. Instead, they were trying to guilt-trip me into bailing them out again. I paced my apartment, hands clenched into fists. It wasn't just the entitlement, it was the sheer audacity. I had given them everything, paid their rent, covered their debts. And when they had extra money, they didn't use it to ease their struggles. They didn't save it. No, they went on a vacation without me. Because apparently, I was the problem. I would have ruined the mood. But now that their little fantasy trip was over and reality was slamming them in the face, suddenly, I was essential. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. I could ignore the email. I could keep them blocked, move on with my life. But something inside me burned for more than just silence. I wanted them to feel this. I sat back down, cracked my knuckles, and started typing. "Mom, Dad," I wrote. "I read your email. I thought about what you said. You're right, I have changed. And I'm finally seeing things clearly. You didn't rely on me. You used me. And you didn't just use me, you disrespected me. You took my money, took my kindness, and then deliberately cut me out when it suited you. Now you're broke. Now you're scared. And suddenly, you love me again? Spare me. I don't owe you anything. I'm not your personal ATM. And I'm done being manipulated. Maybe next time you take a luxury vacation, you should plan for what happens after you land back home. Best of luck figuring it out. I hovered over the send button, and then, with the biggest smirk on my face, I clicked it. 30 minutes later, my sister texted me, "WTF did you say to mom?" She's crying. Then my brother, "Dude, you went too far." And finally, my dad, who had never once begged me for anything before, left a voicemail, his voice shaking with barely concealed anger. "Lucas, listen to me. If you don't fix this, there will be consequences." I replayed the message twice. Consequences? I almost laughed. They still thought they had power over me, that they could threaten me back into submission. That was their final mistake. Because now, I wasn't just walking away. I was about to make sure they never had a hold on me again. I didn't respond to my dad's voicemail. Instead, I went about my day as if nothing had happened. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. My parents weren't the type to let things go. They couldn't stand the idea of losing control over me. So when I heard the sharp, aggressive knock on my apartment door the next evening, I wasn't surprised. I took my time walking over, glancing through the peephole. Sure enough, there they were. My dad stood stiffly, his jaw clenched, looking like he was barely holding back his anger. My mom, on the other hand, had her arms crossed, her face set in a look of forced disappointment, like I was the one who had wronged them. I considered ignoring them, letting them stand out there and stew in their own frustration. But no, I wanted to see this through. I unlocked the door and opened it, leaning casually against the frame. "What do you want?" I asked flatly. My mom's expression immediately shifted into something softer, more pitiful. "Lucas, sweetheart, please. Let's just talk." "No," I cut her off. "Say whatever you came here to say, then leave." That's when my dad stepped forward, his face red with barely contained rage. "You think you're real tough now, huh?" He snapped. "Ignoring our calls, sending us that disgusting email? After everything we've done for you." I raised an eyebrow. "Everything you've done for me?" I repeated. "You mean raising me? Feeding me as a kid? Doing the bare minimum that literally every parent is supposed to do?" My mom let out a dramatic gasp, as if I'd slapped her. "How can you be so ungrateful?" she whispered. I almost laughed. "Ungrateful?" I asked. "I paid your rent for a year. I kept food in your fridge. I made sure you didn't end up on the street. And when you finally had extra money, you took a vacation. Without me. And now you're back because you need me to clean up your mess." Neither of them spoke. That's when I stepped aside, gesturing toward my apartment. "Come in," I said. They exchanged a quick glance, then walked inside cautiously, as if they expected me to start screaming. I didn't. I closed the door, walked over to my counter, and pulled out a folder. Then I turned and placed it right in front of them on the coffee table. "What's this?" my dad asked suspiciously. "Bank statements," I said. "Every payment I made for you. Every dollar I sent." I leaned forward, locking eyes with him. "Just so we're clear on exactly how much I've done for you." My dad barely glanced at it before scoffing. "Oh, so now you're keeping score?" "Yes," I said bluntly. "Because I need you to understand something. I owe you nothing, and you are not entitled to my money." My mom tried again, her voice soft, pleading. "Lucas, please. We don't have anywhere else to go." I felt a flicker of something almost sympathy. But then I remembered her words. "You would have ruined the mood." I took a slow breath, then met her gaze. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you made it clear I wasn't part of this family anymore." My dad's patience snapped. "You selfish little brat," he spat. "You sit here in your nice apartment with your stable job while your family is struggling and you just cut us off?" "Yeah," I said simply. My mom covered her mouth like she was about to cry. My dad just shook his head, his whole body trembling with barely controlled rage. Then, out of nowhere, he stormed forward, shoving the folder off the table. The papers scattered across the floor. I didn't move. I didn't even flinch. He wanted a reaction. I wasn't going to give him one. Instead, I met his glare with a calm, steady expression. "Are you done?" I asked. My dad let out a bitter laugh. "You're gonna regret this," he said, his voice low, dangerous. "Mark my words, you will regret this." I tilted my head. "Are you threatening me?" He scoffed, but he didn't deny it. I stepped forward, my voice cold. "Get out." My mom's face crumpled. "Lucas, please get out." For the first time in my life, my dad actually looked uncertain. But after a tense moment, he grabbed my mom's arm and yanked her toward the door. "You better hope you never need us for anything," he sneered over his shoulder. I just smiled. I never have. And now, I never will. I opened the door for them. They hesitated. as if they thought I might break, as if I might change my mind. But I just stood there, silent, waiting. And finally, they walked out. I shut the door behind them, locked it, and let out a slow breath. I should have felt relieved. But something told me this wasn't over. Not yet. For the next few days, I didn't hear from them. I figured they had gotten the message. My parents were used to getting their way, but they weren't stupid. They knew they had pushed me too far this time. I was wrong. It all started with a single, unexpected message from my sister. The text came through while I was sitting on my couch, scrolling through some random stuff on my phone. "Hey, can we talk?" I rolled my eyes. My sister wasn't exactly a beacon of reason when it came to our parents. She was always the one to say, "Oh, they're just stressed," or "they didn't mean it like that." But deep down, I knew she wasn't going to let this go either. I decided to entertain it, for now. I quickly replied, "About what?" A few minutes later, her message pinged back. "About Mom and Dad. They're really upset. Lucas, can we just talk about it? Please." I sighed, rubbed my eyes, and tossed my phone on the coffee table. My anger was already building up just thinking about them. But for some reason, I found myself typing back. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was some twisted part of me that wanted closure. Or maybe it was just the sheer ridiculousness of the situation. What do they want now? She didn't hesitate. "They've been calling me all day. Dad is on the warpath. He said you humiliated them, that you've crossed a line. Mom's been crying nonstop. They're really sorry, Lucas." I laughed bitterly. "I'm sure they are. They're sorry because I didn't do what they expected me to do." A few seconds of silence passed. Then she replied again. "They're just scared. They really don't know what they're going to do without you. They said they've been thinking about everything. Can't you forgive them, just this once?" "Forgive them?" I typed, almost angrily. "You've got to be kidding me. I've been paying their rent for an entire year, taking care of their bills like some kind of bank. And they didn't even think to include me in their little family vacation. Now that they're in a mess, I'm supposed to swoop in and save them again. No, I'm done, Jamie." The response was quick. "Please. They are sorry, Lucas. They didn't mean to hurt you. Mom said she was wrong. I know you don't believe that, but she really does feel bad." I took a deep breath and ran my fingers through my hair. Part of me wanted to call her out for defending them, but another part of me just wanted to be done with the whole thing. It wasn't worth the energy anymore. "I don't care what they say anymore," I responded. "I'm done. They can figure this out on their own. I've been there for them more than anyone else, and I'm not doing it anymore." I stared at my phone screen for a moment, feeling the anger bubbling up again. But this time, I was more in control. The pain, the frustration, all of it was settling in my gut like a cold rock. Jamie didn't text back for a while. I thought that was it. Then came the call. It was my mom. I let it ring out. I wasn't interested in hearing what she had to say. After a few minutes, she called again. This time, I answered it, just to get it over with. "Lucas." Her voice was soft, almost trembling. I didn't mean for it to go like this." I stayed silent, letting her stew in the awkwardness. Finally, she broke the silence. "You're right. We've been horrible to you. I've been horrible to you. I thought you'd always be there to take care of things. But now, I see how wrong I was. You don't owe us anything, Lucas. You never did. It was everything I'd ever wanted to hear. But there was no satisfaction in it anymore." "No," I said flatly. "I don't owe you anything." There was a pause, then a deep breath from my mom. "We're sorry," she repeated. "We never wanted to hurt you." I could hear the faint sound of her crying on the other end, but I felt no sympathy. Not anymore. I'd given them everything, and this was how they repaid me. "I've already made my decision," I told her. "I'm done. And if you really mean that you're sorry, you'll leave me alone." The line went quiet. Then, just as I was about to hang up, she whispered, "Please, Lucas, don't leave us. Don't turn your back on your family." I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. "I've already turned my back on you. You just didn't notice until it was too late." And with that, I ended the call. I thought that would be the end of it. But a few hours later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a voicemail from my dad. "You've crossed a line, Lucas. You're not just cutting us off, you're destroying this family. You think this is over? It's not. I'm going to make sure you regret this. You'll be sorry, just wait." I stared at the phone, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to listen to it over and over, to savor the anger in his voice. But I didn't. I deleted it. It wasn't worth my time anymore. And I knew what came next. The call I'd been waiting for. The one that would finally finish this story for good. It didn't come from my parents, though. It came from my brother. And when I picked up, his first words sent a chill down my spine. "Lucas, you need to be careful. This is bigger than you think. They're planning something. Something you won't expect." I froze. I wasn't sure what he meant by that, but the tone in my brother's voice instantly made my stomach turn. There was a quiet, eerie edge to his words, and it felt like he was hiding something. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process everything that had happened. The calls, the guilt trips, the accusations, all of it. "What do you mean, bigger than I think?" I asked, my voice steady despite the whirlwind in my head. He hesitated before answering, and when he spoke again, I could hear the nervousness in his voice. "Look, I know things have been bad between us. I get that. But this isn't just about the money anymore. It's about control. They're not going to let this go. They're going to make sure you pay for cutting them off." I felt the words like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean pay exactly? What are they planning?" My mind was racing, but I wasn't ready to let the fear take over. "Not again. I don't know everything," he said quickly, "but I've seen how they've been acting behind closed doors. It's like they're trying to manipulate the rest of the family into turning against you. I think they're setting something up, something big. And if you don't watch out, they'll turn everyone against you." I rubbed my temples, feeling the weight of his words settling on my chest like a heavy boulder. Was I prepared for what was coming? Was this just their way of playing some last-ditch manipulation game? Or was there something else going on? "Thanks for the heads up," I said finally, my voice cold and distant. "But I've already made my decision. They've crossed every line. I'm done." I hung up without another word. And that's when I realized something. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It wasn't about whether or not I'd been generous enough. No, this was about something deeper, something toxic. And I knew I had to completely sever ties before I ended up like them. Bitter, entitled, and suffocating in my own guilt. The next day, the storm hit. I was sitting on my couch when I saw the first message. It was a group text from my parents, my sister, and my brother. It was the last thing I ever expected. "We need to talk. This family is falling apart, and we need you to fix it. This isn't just about the money, Lucas. We're asking for your help. Please, come home and be the man you were." I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the reply button. But I didn't respond right away. Instead, I sat there, staring at the message in disbelief. This was it, their final attempt to get me back in the fold. But I wasn't going to fall for it. Not this time. So, I did what I'd promised myself I'd do. I walked away. Completely. I blocked every single one of them on my phone. I unfriended them on social media. No messages, no calls, no way to reach me. A few days passed in silence. Then, I got an unexpected visit at my apartment door. I opened it to find my parents standing there, looking like two broken people. Their faces were pale, their eyes red and swollen. For a moment, they looked nothing like the people who had raised me. They looked like they'd been defeated, and part of me wondered if they truly had changed. "Lucas, please. You have to listen to us," my mom said in a voice that was barely a whisper. "We're sorry. We've been wrong. We don't want to lose you. This whole thing, it's gone too far. We just want our family back." I didn't say anything. I just stood there, staring at them, letting the silence fill the room. My dad spoke next, his voice shaky. "Please, son, don't do this. We need you. You're the only one who can fix this." It was in that moment that I realized I was done. Completely done. They had manipulated me for years, used me as a safety net when things went wrong, and then treated me like I didn't matter when they thought I could no longer be of use to them. But now, they were desperate. Desperate enough to beg. Desperate enough to try and twist the situation to make me feel guilty. But I had nothing left to give them. No more money, no more favors, no more emotional support. I had been their lifeline for too long, and now I was walking away for good. "No," I said firmly. "You've had enough chances. I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me?" I shook my head. "I'm done. This is my final answer." I could see their faces fall, the weight of their own actions finally settling in. It felt strange, but it was also freeing. For the first time in years, I wasn't tied to their drama. I didn't know them anything. They turned to leave, but not before my dad muttered, "You'll regret this." But I didn't care. I felt no remorse, no guilt. I had finally taken control of my own life, and I was going to protect my peace from here on out. A few weeks passed. I didn't hear from them. I didn't hear from anyone else, either. My phone was silent, and for the first time in ages, I actually felt happy. Free even. Then came the final blow, An email. It was from my sister, and this time, she was the one apologizing. She said that she understood why I had done what I did, that I deserved better, and that the family was falling apart. She said that if I didn't come back, they'd never be the same again. She begged me to reconsider. I didn't even read the rest. I just deleted it. That was the end of it. I had won. And my family, what was left of it, was left to pick up the pieces. I don't know what the future holds, but I know this. I won't be looking back. What do you think? Should I have taken a different approach, or did I make the right choice?